If you are a student in tech, you would have possibly wondered how can I participate in Google Summer of Code, which is one of the biggest global online programs to encourage open source contribution. I am Aditya Thakur, and in this video I have with me Prateek Bed, who is a contributor to Google Summer of Code in 2021. He contributed to the CC Extractor organization to build the Flood mobile app, which uses Flutter for its front end and uses Node.js for the back end. In this video, we'll talk about his journey getting started, how did he frame his proposal, how was he able to contribute to the organization, all his learnings throughout, and finally ask him for some tips for students who might be interested to contribute to the program next year. So without any further delay, let us just get started with the video. Hey Prateek, thank you so much for joining me today. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Aditya, thanks for having me. I'm an engineering student based out of Assam right now. I did my engineering from DIT Chennai, still in my fourth year. I'm also working at a company based out of Bangalore. It's called Neo Solutions. It's a fintech startup. And I did my GSOC in 2021. It's been an amazing journey after GSOC and the months before GSOC. So
That is amazing. Thank you so much for being here today with me. Before we talk about your contributions to the program, I would love to know your journey getting started with it. As in, how did you come across the program and what was it like preparing for it? How much knowledge of Dart or Flutter you would say you had before you participated in it?
I started looking into GSOC around September 2020, I guess. September, right when the 2020 GSOC ended. That's when I started looking into GSOC. There were several posts on LinkedIn. People were very happy when they completed GSOC and stuff like that. So I just thought of exploring that at that point. When I started, I had a beginner level, I had a moderate level experience in Flutter. I did a couple of internships at that point. I was also working with a South Korean startup at that. I had a moderate level of understanding on the Flutter domain. But my primary focus of doing GSOC wasn't to hunt for organizations that had Flutter projects. I went in to learn more about open source. So I started looking for organizations that had projects that basically interested me. But that didn't go on so well because the code bases were huge and it took a lot of effort. So suppose if I don't know Node.js, I had to read through the entire code base and then understand the framework first of all and then the code. So it was becoming a very big task. So what I did was I switched to the approach where I chose organizations based on the skills that I already had. So Android, iOS, and then Flutter, obviously. So Android, iOS had loads of organizations that had Android and specifically Android projects were widely spread out. And I tried out a couple of them as well. And then I switched on to iOS. So I dabbled in a bit there as well. But I hit my stride with Flutter primarily because my mentor was very helpful. I mean, replying to messages very quickly and like reviewing code. So that was very helpful on his part, and that's what encouraged me to like stick with the Flutter-based project, which was RU Torrent, which is in the organization I did my GSOC with.
All right, yeah. And as you mentioned, like code base can be very intimidating, and navigating the code base is one of the first important steps. How did you find the project or organization that you would later contribute to? How did you get started with that?
The first step in selecting an organization, like there are two mindsets with which people usually should go inside it. One is you don't have one particular technology that you're strong with. So you are in general a quick learner and you don't have a particular technology that's your favorite. So what you do is you search for organizations whose project you like. So suppose what I did was I checked out Zulip, which was a chat service provider, and then I also checked out Rocket Chat, which was like they had tons of services, and this was interesting to me, although I didn't know the technology they were using. So my first step was in this approach. My first step was to like clone the repository and read through the README and try to run it. Uh, but people who aren't familiar with the technology would soon realize that these organizations have huge code bases. So when you don't know anything about it, it becomes a little difficult when you don't have a lot of guidance. So at this point of time, I thought while I'm still trying to run this, I could try the second approach, which is like choosing organizations based on the skills that you already have. So I had Android and iOS at that point. I did a bit of Flutter, but like Android was the strong suit at that point of time. So I tried out a little bit of Android-based organizations. So RocketChat had an application, but that was deprecated at that point. I still tried it out a little, and then I hopped on to the organization that I contributed to. So that's CC Extractor. They were one of the very few organizations that had a Flutter-based project. So one of them was RUTorrent. So RUTorrent is basically a torrent client that communicates with your with the backend, with a torrent backend. So that was fairly simple, and I mean the code base wasn't huge. That was a plus at that point of time. Now obviously the code base has grown since it's gone through two phases of GSOC. But at that point of time, the code base was fairly simple, and the person who worked on it, he also became my mentor, and he was still working on it even after GSOC. So when he was still working on it, I had like the opportunity to see what kind of code quality he brings in with each PR and each commit. So that gave me a head start as well to like monitor my own code quality. And when a person who's actively contributing to the repository is fairly active in the community, uh, you can ask them questions as well. So that's how I got started. And once there was a tuning between me and the mentor and the community, and I was also comfortable with the code base, I thought like let's drop everything else and focus on this organization. So from that point of time, I before GSOC, I had contributed about 8 months of my time to CC Extractors RE project.
Oh, that is an interesting fact I got to know today. Yeah, and I think it does help a lot if you're familiar with the code base and you can submit a better proposal. So this would be one of the important tips to the community, to everyone watching this video, that takes out some time to actually familiarize yourself with the organization that you want to contribute to. So tell me about the contribution, as in how did you prepare your proposal, what all went into it, and how did you contribute to the project?
So actually, even though I contributed for 8 months to RU Torrent project, I didn't end up taking RU Torrent as my GSOC project. My GSOC project was a completely new project that we worked on. Coming to that, basically what ended up happening was uh, the organization at around March, I guess. So I'm not very sure about the timeline, but like 3 4 months before the GSOC period starts, the organization came up with a list of topics that they had. So like a couple of new applications that they wanted to build. So at that point of time, I saw a couple of projects that weren't being worked on a lot. So when contributing to organizations that have a lot of traction, it's important to also find projects that don't have a lot of traction, so which are inherently difficult, so that like there isn't a lot of competition. So I picked out one of those projects, and I just decided to try and run it at that point of time. So that was again a very tedious task because like the documentation wasn't there. But after having run it, my primary focus was to have like a proposal ready application before GSOC, because lots of people would end up applying for these applications, and what ends up happening is the mentors don't have a lot of time to go through each and every application. So one primary focus is to have like a concise proposal. With that, you should also be active in the community so that like your name stands out. When they're swiping through various portfolios and various proposals, they should immediately find your name since you've been active in the community. So having done that and like wanting to make a proposal oriented uh, project or a proof of concept at that point of time, what did was I made a Figma design to start off with. So we didn't have a mobile application for it, so we made a Figma design for it. A link to that might be in the Medium article that I wrote as well. So like we made the Figma design, and then I showed it to the mentors the potential mentors that were going to be there. So they approved those, and then like I started off making a proof of concept where we had the login module and like a very simplistic dashboard at that point of time. So that like the mentor was fairly confident that if they select me, I'd be able to complete the project. So having done that, I started off with the proposal. So basically, most people don't pay as much weightage to proposal as you might have to, primarily because not all organizations are proposal oriented. Well, there are actually two kinds of projects. So one is projects that are pre-made and then you add code to it. So when there are organizations of this stature where they already have a code base, the proposal doesn't play a very important role, in my personal opinion. But when you're working on a fairly new project, which is like from scratch, a proposal plays a very important role. So my mentor told me that like a proposal is going to be fairly important. So I included the design and the proof of concept and the contributions that I had made. Yeah, so proposal primarily has a couple of components. So your introduction and your basic experience that you have with the technology that you work with. And then you go in detail about each and everything that you're going to work on. So proposal, I mean, there isn't a particular length that I don't have a number of pages that you need to do, but everything that you're going to work on should be extremely detailed, and uh, it should go into fine details as to there shouldn't be any ambiguity at the end uh, while the mentor is trying to review the project. So what you should try and do is take each and every component that you're building and go into fine grains of those details. That would fill up a lot of content for you, and it will also show the mentor that you've gone into a lot of thought while presenting your proposal. Then comes what you've done so far. So in that you could include your current PRs that you've made. So I know a couple of organizations that don't want you to immediately start on the GSOC project, but it'll be sufficient if you've worked on it before. If you contributed to, suppose, say, Rocket Chat, then you might have had a lot of contributions in several repositories that they have, and you could link it there. And it's always good to contribute in several organizations and provide PR links to everything in the description. So what will end up happening is the mentor will see that he's fairly confident with Git and reading code bases, and you're a quick learner. And at the end, you should just provide a timeline of what each phase would look like. I stuck to a weekly timeline, but several people I know, they did a day-wise timeline as well. So each day what they're going to work on, so that the mentor can keep track of it. And right at the end, you should always mention how you're going to stick with the organization after GSOC. So my primary objective was to take the flood project further, and that is what I had mentioned in the proposal.
Thank you so much for sharing details about the proposal. It does help a lot. And I want to know, like, how were the different evaluations done, like, throughout the program? How were you evaluated based on the proposal that you had submitted? And how was your connection with your mentors and how did they help?
The evaluation part was, I mean, it wasn't very strict. So when you've got a good rapport with the mentor, he knows that you get the work done. So there isn't a lot of overhead. You just provide them a timeline, and based on the timeline, at the end of the evaluation, they'll just check if you've achieved those timelines. We would often have like a discussion with the mentor, and we didn't have like a regular meeting of sorts, but just a normal discussion with the mentor whenever I had a question, or whenever I thought of deciding a particular UX approach. So suppose if I wanted to go with a list view or a grid view, so these were kinds of discussion that I had with my mentor. And based on that, like, he would evaluate how much work I'm doing on a weekly basis, and at the end, when there is an evaluation at each phase, he would just check if the work that I had committed to, has that been completed on.
Yeah, and another question. If I submit a timeline with my proposal and later on when I'm participating in the program, something comes up that requires my attention, I'm not able to stick with the timeline. Is it possible to change it later on?
Yeah, so the mentors were extremely friendly. I personally had my end of semester exam right when GSOC period started. So, but make sure when you already know that there is going to be like a huge delay, please try and mention that in your proposal, so that like mentors can evaluate your proposal accordingly. So suppose if you're taking a 2 week break, they also want to see that you don't commit to a huge undertaking, which is like sorts of impossible, in your proposal. So I personally knew that I was going to need like a 2 week break right at the start of the GSOC period because I had my end semester examination. So I had mentioned that in my proposal. Having done that, I also told them that this work would be done before the GSOC period starts. So even while the proposal was made, I kept into account that since I'm going to be spending 2 weeks of my time doing the exam related stuff, in order to cover for it, I'd start a little early and then I'll get that completed. But overall, if you need like like a short break or something, or if something comes up, the mentors are usually very accommodating. And even GSOC mentions that if you aren't able to achieve the timeline, you can ask for an extension. So that goes a long way. And you all obviously have like a 1 week buffer at the end of each phase, so that could be used to cover up for time.
All right, yeah, that clears up a lot of things. So, I also want to know from a technical perspective, like we have a Flutter audience here. So, what were some of the learnings that you had throughout the journey with Google Summer of Code project? Like, what all did you learn? And if you can tell in more of like technical terms, as in,
So my personal most important learning was how to make a package. So I had zero understanding of how packages are made, and like one of the most difficult hurdles in the entire application was something called server sent events, which I've detailed in the blog as well. So basically, they are very different from HTTP calls, and most applications don't like most user-based applications that we make using tutorials or something like that don't use server sent events. So I personally didn't have any idea about it. My mentor gave me a document to read. I read that and like I started searching if somebody's already done that. Like since I didn't find anybody, and that was like a very core feature of the entire application, since all the data that was coming through that server sent event channel. Uh, Basically you get to learn a lot since you'd be tackling territories that haven't been explored yet. So server sent event was one such territory which like I personally couldn't find a lot of resource on, and that's what led me to explore more on that domain. I read up a couple of code snippets for Node.js which use server sent events and that try to replicate that in Dart. And like after doing that, I tried to search how to make packages and stuff because we had to eventually integrate it. This could also be useful in several other applications. So basically, there are loads and loads of learning throughout the GSOC period. Uh, you get to work on end-to-end projects to start off with, and there are so many unexplored territory that you get to learn about and then make projects with.
true, I think like you learn a lot of stuff when you are working on a project. There are a lot of things that you need to fix and figure out.
Exactly.
So, what is it like now that you're done with the program? How do you stay connected with the community? How do you continue to contribute to the project?
So I personally say the biggest plus point of having done GSOC was to become a part of the community. We have like an active Discord server which has past GSOCers and current GSOCers in it. We also have like a very active WhatsApp group, and we constantly stay connected. So people keep sharing where they've gotten placed, or what they're doing at the company, and like everybody helps each other out. So referrals are a very common thing. So people getting placed in several companies refer each other directly through the community. Since like people have worked in GSOC, everybody is very confident that if they refer somebody, they'll be technically sound to take on that interview process. So it becomes very easy. So suppose if I have to refer somebody, I just ask in the community, and like people interested just text me, and I don't have to like go through their resume over and over again because I already know that they've contributed to a huge repository, and like they're familiar with the tech stack, so they'd be fairly confident with a small interview. And like the community overall is very helpful once you get in, and then it's a very active community.
Yeah, and I think like it would be a big plus, are familiar with these people, you know them from the contributions to the program, and you also know like they know their way around big code bases and they know the technology that they work on. So, lastly, before we conclude, I want to know like about the changes that are there in the new Google Summer of Code, and any tips that you might have for people who want to contribute to it next year.
Yeah. So, I mean, anybody looking to GSOC, looking to do GSOC this year, I don't think so. You should be very concerned about the changes right now because fairly the changes are very simple. So they're basically just two changes overall. So there isn't a age bound to age or like institution bound to GSOC. So you should just be over a particular age to participate. And then there are two kinds of projects. So one is a short duration project and one is a long duration project. So I mean, these things shouldn't concern somebody who's looking to do GSOC this year. The ideal theory should be to start contributing as soon as possible because at the end it wouldn't matter like how much experience that you have. Like that would obviously matter, but how you could overcome the factor that experience is being taken into account is by having a lot of contributions to start off with. So if you start right now, I think there's a huge amount of time that we could take into account and start contributing and nullify the factor where experience would be taken into account. I mean, we personally had the short duration project, which was fairly sufficient. And this year, I guess they have like a long duration project as well. So I don't think so that will play a very different role altogether. Yeah, stipend has been increased as well. So for the long duration project, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that summarizes the changes that are there. And thank you so much for joining me today for this call. And it was a very informative and insightful session on Google Summer of Code. And I think that a lot of us would benefit from it if we are looking to apply to Google Summer of Code next year. And thank you for watching the video till the end. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions even after watching this video, we have Prateek on our Discord server. You can always ask your questions to him. You can go over to a channel, put in your query. There are other mentors available there. There are other people who have previously contributed to Google Summer of Code and would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. The links to Prateek's LinkedIn and his Medium article on how to contribute to Google Summer of Code, his contribution and everything would be in the description. The Discord invite would be there as well, so feel free to join that. And thank you again for watching the video. I'll continue to interview other people and talk about their journey in tech, and we'll get to learn all these technologies and all these everything about the different programs out there together. So thank you so much.